EOG grade 8 math students really underperform. The
Mm-hmm.
performance of
It's a
those
big
students
difference.
is very, very,
Mm-hmm.
very, very drastic. But when you put it together, you kind of see that raise up. But that's why we noted that it's 9-12. So we differentiate those kids that are taking that in high school. Does that work?
Yes, sir. That's perfect.
So you're saying they do better in ninth grade than they do eighth? Is that no? You said the opposite.
The
They
8th
do.
graders do perform better on Math 1, but they're probably prepared to take that Math 1. That's why they're being placed into it. The students who remain in the EOG for 8th grade do not perform well on the 8th grade EOG. So when they come up to high school to take Math 1, the kids that are taking this Math 1 information appears low because those are still those 8th graders that didn't take it.
So do administrators have the option to not have Math 1 at a K-8 school?
I don't know if there's an option because there's a requirement to accelerate math if the student scores a level 5 on the EOG. So if the students in 7th grade scores a level 5, you have to accelerate their math. So
Right.
it would be assumed that they would be placed into Math 1 for those purposes.
So a district or school can't say, well, we can't find a Math 1 teacher, so we're just not going to offer it.
I can't speak to what the requirements are, but I would say that there's probably some opportunities to use NCDPS or other things within districts if they can't find.
I know some schools where it was not offered.
Right.
I think for that reason, they didn't have anyone that was credentialed.
Right. And if they're doing better in 8th grade than 9th grade, we would want to ensure that instruction. Okay, thank you.
That was question number 1.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, I made that decision this year at my school because I begged my central office staff to convert everyone to Math 1. And, like, we have some students with some similar data profiles, and just with Math 1 last year, with the same data from the previous year in terms of student achievement, we went from, like, 33% proficiency with 8th grade math to, like, in the 80s because of Math 1. So it is a drastic difference. Students do perform better in Math 1, and that's why we converted. But anyway, so my second point is for ELA, and I'm not even sure if this would be directed to you, but a lot of times in the scope of questioning, the questions are not always responsive, and that's why sometimes I feel the data is skewed. And when I say that, for example, when you come to my school and you talk to my children and you consider exposure, if you use the term subway as a mode of transportation in a problem set, they can't relate to that. Because a subway in my community, for those that haven't been exposed to a lot of things, is a restaurant. So when you use that language or you have that conversation in my community, we're going to get a foot-long sub for dinner, okay? So when we talk about just like relating to the questioning and the depth of questioning, sometimes I feel like it's data skewed just because of those language dives and those miscommunications in that question set. So I oftentimes get somewhat irritated, and like we have conversations with our teachers often about using those language dives and making sure we're responsive and vocabulary exposure, because oftentimes really our students don't know. I was actually very surprised to find out many 8th graders didn't know what a subway was in terms of a mode of transportation. And then when we bridged that gap for those students, it was a beautiful awareness for everybody in the building just by having that conversation. Now they can tackle that question. So that's just always something I keep in mind when I look at that ELA data across the board. Yep. So, yep.
The next section is focused on our high school administration assessments of ACT, SAT, and advanced placement. So we can go ahead and start with the ACT. And for this presentation, we show the graduating seniors. As I'm sure you all are aware, we do administer the ACT to 11th graders as a required assessment for all 11th graders to take. We're focusing at graduating seniors because that maintains the trend line that we've had in your reporting for many, many years before we were administering this information. But the preponderance of ACT, when we're looking at graduating seniors, is the 11th grade results. The only differences you might find when you look at 11th grade compared to graduating seniors would be students who take the ACT a second time and perform better, because ACT then provides us the most recent or highest score when we're looking at graduating they have, right? So when they say graduating seniors, it's when a student indicates they think they're going to graduate. So then that data is sent to us in that year that they say they're graduating, which generally speaking is after, the year after they take 11th grade, but there may be some instances where that's not necessarily the case for that data that gets passed to us. But you can see by these data that there is a slight improvement in the overall composite score from the previous year, getting back to about where it was in 2018-19. Next slide. The next one is SAT participation. And the reason you didn't see ACT participation is because with those graduating seniors in the 11th grade requirement, it's virtually 100% of students across the state are included in that. When we look at SAT participation, this is just to provide information on the percentage of students that are taking SAT. SAT continues to be fewer and fewer students taking it. This most recent data contained only around 22,000 students in the state taking the SAT. Because most students are taking the ACT, and really that is all they need for their future endeavors, they're not taking the SAT. So SAT is being administered more specifically now to students who are required to have that to get into a different school. They may be choosing to go to a school in the Northeast where an SAT assessment is required and not an ACT. So those two assessments have kind of traditionally camped themselves in different parts of the country, where SAT is a traditional northeastern, eastern assessment, and ACT was, I'm originally from Wisconsin, so ACT was the one I took. I didn't even know SAT existed when I took a test to get into college, because ACT was the test that the Wisconsin state schools looked for, because that came out of Iowa, and that's where, that was the test that we took, not necessarily SAT. So these participants are more streamlined than the ACT in terms of who is taking it. As for the results with the graduating seniors on the next slide, you'll see that it tends to continue to be flat. There was a increase, and then for a few years, and then now a dip in the American Indian student group back to where it was in around 1920. Those numbers are about the same, so that would be interesting to look at the student population that's taking that, because we know that that does keep getting smaller, and that may have something to do with the changes in the results. Next slide. This is the advanced placement exam participation. You can see that the exam participation was on the increase, and in this most recent year, there was a bit of a drop back to the percentage of students taking that for the American Indian student group.
Curtis, can I say something right there?
Please.
So, I'm from Columbus County. So in Columbus County, we've seen a decrease in our AP also, and ours is due to our students being on the Career and College Promise track. So they're taking those college level courses while they're in high school versus taking the AP courses.
And that would make sense. My understanding is that has significantly increased, and in some districts has prioritized differently. So it's, again, with AP data, that's kind of a tracking where it's not all students, and it's specific to decisions that are made locally. But on the next slide, we'll see that of those students that are taking advanced placement, we do continue to see that rise in the American Indian student group, where there was a significant increase in performance between 1819 and 1920, and that has continued to go up. It's leveled off a bit in the most recent year, but that data did show a significant increase, and that was something that was highlighted in the College Board presentation over the last few years, is that student population has clearly shown significant next couple of slides are something new. They are not part of the report, but it's information that I wanted to provide to you as it is presented to the state board. Uh, This first slide is subgroup growth by subgroup. So these student groups, this shows the percentage of student groups that are exceeding, meeting, or not meeting expected growth. And these are within schools, and they have to have a minimum number of students. So there may be student populations within a school that are not reflected here because they don't meet the minimum number for reporting. So you can see that at the top you've got your American Indian subgroup, and the majority, 80% of groups when we're looking within schools are meeting or exceeding expected growth. On the next slide, this is an atypical presentation because American Indian is on the bottom. For whatever reason, this slide will not let us flip those values around in the PowerPoint presentation, so I apologize for that, but they are on the bottom, and you can see that this just gives that performance grade score or performance grade result by student group. So you've got the percentage of student groups that meet the minimum N. Minimum N is 30, the number of students required to have at least 30 and at least one indicator in these data. So you will see that we have data that shows that performance in the American Indian subgroup, when you look at a school performance grade, is struggling as compared to other student groups. And then I just wanted to take some time to show you some resources that you may find of interest so that you can do a deeper dive than the data I presented today and the data that will be presented in your reports later in the year. We have a couple of new dashboards that are out on the public website. This one is a little over a year old now, the testing results dashboard, where you can see disaggregated end of grade and end of course data at the state, region, district, and school level. The link is in the presentation for you if you want to click on it, and I'll show you a couple of slides of what this data looks like. Go to the next slide, please. This is the overall state level view, where you can see all of the test results for each of the content areas, and then see trend lines over time for student populations, as well as within each achievement level at the bottom, and then student groups on the right-hand side. At the top of the screen, you're able to change years, you're able to change student groups, and you're able to change the expectation. We have both the career and college readiness standard, which is levels 4 and 5, and the grade level proficiency standard, which is levels 3, 4, and 5. So next slide, please. One of the features that you're able to do with the student groups is we show you a set group of student groups that are preset within the system, but we disaggregate significantly more. So if someone's interested in doing a deep dive into female of a certain group, so if you wanted to focus on female American Indian students, you could uncheck all the boxes and check just those things that you want to look at and compare and provide and look deeper at. And provided that there's at least 10 scores in a particular piece of information, the data will populate. So if there's 10 across, if you're looking at the state level, if there's 10 across the state, you'll get that information. So clearly, as you go into the school level, having 10 or more, you may struggle to find that information, but it will populate whatever the data is available to you. Next slide, please. We also have a regional view. It basically looks the same as the state, except you can select the State Board of Education regions. One of the features that is in the regional view, as well as the district view, is the ability to look at a map. So once you've selected a particular region, you can click the little map feature at the top. It's got that little pin drop at the top of the screen. You can click on it and it'll show you a map view is the 115 school districts across the state. You're able to select any one of those districts, and then you're able to see the district results in the same way you could search them for the state. Next slide. And then there's the school. Within the districts, you can also do that map feature where this is filtered to the American Indian Student Group for mathematics, grades 3 through 8, and it will show you where there's enough data to present. And as you hover over each of those schools with color, districts with color, it will show you the results. It will also show you the number of students. So you will be able to see information in that way. Next slide. And then when you're looking at schools, you're able to sort by county within the schools. So when you sort by county, you get both the district schools and charter schools and lab schools within that particular county. And then you can select on a particular school, and you can see the results of that school and populate the information for you in those schools. Next slide. We also have a cohort graduation rate dashboard that's very similar to this, but its sole focus is on the graduation rate. So it only has one. It's not as busy because there's only one thing to look at, where the testing dashboard has EOGs, EOCs, reading, math, science, so lots of different ways to look at that data. Again, you have state, region, and district and school results. Next slide. So on this one, you're able to look at the results of student groups and overall. This is the state level results. You're able to focus in on student groups and filter, as well as look at trend lines over the last 3, 5, and 10 years. And then looking at the 4-year or the 5-year graduation rate. Next slide. You can also look at it by region. So this is a regional view of the data, and you're able to focus in on specific regions, but also see the results of the other regions. In this instance, you can also map it. Next slide. Then you have the district view, where you're able to see districts. And when you filter on particular student groups, only the districts that have enough data to report will produce this. So in this instance, I filtered to the American Indian Student Group, and now you can see all of the districts that have at least 10 students in the cohort. And that gives you a sense of which districts you would want to look at when you're trying to find your information you're looking for. And then the last slide is a school level view, where you can select a county again, or a district, and then filter for all of the schools, and you'll be able to see the school results, but specifically the school that you selected. Are there any questions?
I have a question on page 25 when you're breaking it down by the district, and it's also county as well. Orange County, I believe, is not highlighted.
Which one?
Page 25, is that Orange County that is not highlighted there? In between the orange and blue? Do they not participate in providing data for that, or is it just they don't break down within the
They
specific?
do, in the way that I sorted it, and what I selected may not have garnered enough students,
Gotcha.
right?
To just be
Depending on how granular you get with the data,
Okay.
you may not find enough students to meet the minimum number of students.
Okay.
And just to remind us that in this view for districts, Chapel Hill Caldwell is not included with Orange County. So if
Correct.
those two combined might have data, they would see that Chapel Hill Caldwell is its own district
Correct.
and Orange is its own district.
And so because they are separated, because that's where my child is at school, you do not collaborate them when you put it in as Orange
No,
County,
they are
the
just-
specific county, not the district, Orange County district versus Chapel Hill. Gotcha, thank you.
Camille Lanning. So it kind of pertains to this. I know that whenever we've done the report in the past, there's always a discrepancy between the self-identified going into Power School and the Title VI students. with the position that's coming through, will we have access to the data to be able to integrate that into this so that we can pull the exact information we're looking for those schools that receive Title VI funds and their testing scores? I'm just curious if that's gonna be a possibility since DPI will have that underneath their purview. So,
I'm not familiar with the Title VI component. I can't speak to that.
Yeah.
If the data, if a tag is available to us, we can certainly, make things happen. But until we know what's going on from the data side of tagging a particular student or piece of information in a certain way, I think this gets to a question you often have asked me regarding
Yeah.
identification of when a student is tagged as two or more races within our school
Right.
instance. So that two or more races is a federal requirement. So our reporting is focused on those particular student groups. And we don't have, at this point, a way to parse that out and then provide that data.
I was just thinking going forward with that position being within DPI and it moving forward, having that access to it, to be able to put that information in and possibly have it tagged and just put it on the radar, make sure that it was stated, because I know that has been our biggest thing is getting the true numbers, because we've used this information, but it would be really good to see, how that's impacting directly our students, because, people can self-identify, but if they're receiving Indian education funds, that means they're with our tribes. So just to be able to see that data. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you for joining us, Mr.
Thank you
Curtis.
as always for the opportunity, and I look forward to working with you further.
All right, thank you. At this time, we can proceed. The Office of Indian Education has joined us. If we need a 5-minute bathroom break after the Office of Indian presentation, we need to figure out our recommendations and so forth. So we still have a few minutes. If we need a bathroom break or not, y'all want to keep going? Okay. All right. We'll take a 5-minute bathroom break. I will.
I was hoping you wanted one, that's why you said it.
Now, if you go to, like I said, if you go to DC, it's one thing. Go to some of these other, some of these in-town training sessions. Like even here in London. That's what I mean.
Everybody looks good. They used to be. Yeah. They used to.
Bringing up everybody, Stephen? I got one. Stephen passing out candy over there. Got Halloween candy?
You know, so not.
Madam Chairwoman, I think it's really.
All right, at this time, we will reconvene and continue in our agenda. At this time, we welcome Dr. Crystal Moore, providing Title VI updates. She's the Supervisory Education Program Specialist from the Office of Indian Education. Dr. Moore has provided a live, meaningful collaboration chart for your reference. Welcome, Dr. Moore, and thank you for joining SACE once again.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation. And I'll just note, Miss Annabelle Toledo, my colleague, she's on leave this week, so she will not be joining us. And there's our team. Yeah, thanks. Annabelle Toledo is actually your assigned program officer for the state of North Carolina. About 4 years ago now, we transitioned all of our program officers to regional assignments. And so Annabelle has all the grantees on basically the east of the Mississippi. And Consuela, did you want me to go through all of these slides, or did you want to start with any specific questions that folks had and wanted to make sure they covered first? I'm good with either format.
You can continue with your slides, and then
Okay.
after, if our council has any questions, then we'll open the floor for that.
Okay, great. All right. So you all can read, so I won't read the slides to you, but highlight the key points. So the purpose of the EASY Title VI program, it's actually back in 2015 when we had ESSA that amended ESEA from the 1965 legislation. We, our Title VII program went to Title VI. We still have some grantees that reference our program as Title VII, but it is Title VI, and it's actually Part A, Subpart 1. There are many parts to Title VI, but we are Part A, Subpart 1. And we grant to school districts. We have 13 different entity types, and which means we have one of the, I would think, most complex grant programs in all of the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, which is our parent office. under the U.S. Department of Education, our principal office, and OESC grants normally about $20 billion worth of grants. We are annually about 110 million of that only. And so, but we do grant mainly to local LEAs and charter schools, BIEs, Indian community-based organizations, 501c3s, et cetera. 13 different, you can find those on our application. Here is our funding from 23 to 24. You see there's some blank spaces where some states normally are. That means we have 0 grantees in that state. We grant to almost almost 500,000 students. So our grants are student driven, not entity driven. And they are based on 506 eligibility. We'll talk a little bit more later, but we overall the children we cover, the students we cover are almost 500,000 in 38 states. And we typically have about 1,270-ish grants per year. One year I had over 1,300, but it kind of has settled around 1,270. We don't grant to Hawaii. We do grant to Alaska as American Indian Alaskan Native program. We have other granting offices for Hawaiian natives in OESC though. Okay, and then moving on. So for our FY23 grantee pool, our awards, as you'll see there, about 1,083 of them went to local education agencies. The statute actually has an inherent preference for LEAs, and an LEA has to sign a tribe implying in lieu of an LEA form. This is pretty particular, but some folks get hung up on this. So in order for a tribe to apply in lieu of an LEA, the LEA has to sign a form agreeing to that. Otherwise, they have the first preference in applying for the grant. So we have 1,083 of those. And then you'll see in the pie chart here, we have 29 LEA consortiums. We have 85 Bureau contract grant schools. So these are schools that are sponsored by the tribe, but are still they have an agreement with the Bureau of Indian Education to operate. And they get a grant from us as well. So we collaborate on those grants. And we co-manage their funding in our G5 system, which I think most of you are aware of. We have 45 straight Bureau operated schools. And these are schools that the Bureau of Indian Education and the Department of Interior, totally different federal agencies. Some folks get us confused, but Department of Interior operates BIE and the Bureau operates 45 schools that are also our grantees. We have 27 tribes applying in lieu of LEAs. So they signed that form that I told you about. And then we have one Indian community-based organization. We may have a second one coming up, applying for FY24 funds. Okay, next slide, please. We talked at length last time about the meaningful collaboration, tribal consultation factors. You guys had a lot of questions and we went through those. Is there I'll stop here. Is there anything else you wanted to specifically dig into about meaningful collaboration, tribal consultation at this meeting? Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and roll on. I will tell you one thing, actually. We are, I have recently revised the tribal consultation. The last time it was updated and published was 2016, and it was signed by the Assistant Secretary at the time, Ann Whalen. So it's not been updated then. We've done some significant updates. I have it in clearance right now. Hopefully that will be published in the next few months to support your tribal consultation efforts. Okay. All right. Indian Parent Committee approval form. This is where we get a significant amount of our questions and concerns from everyone. So this is where I spend a good percentage of my time resolving these issues. So in gist and overall, the Indian Parent Committee approval form is 100% required, statutorily required. This is the one form we monitor 100% of our applications for. The one item we monitor 100% of our applications for. So we must have a signed Indian Parent Committee approval form. It was recently updated to include minutes. Applicants must now give us the minutes from the meeting or the session where they reviewed and approved the final application. So again, every applicant that is required to have an LEA, or that is required to have an IPCA, which is every LEA, they must submit this IPCA approval form, or we will reject the application completely. And if the application season's already closed, the deadline's already passed, you cannot resubmit it after the deadline. That has happened to at least 2 grantees last year. So signed, and so we recommend that grantees start with this form and start with the Indian Parent Committee early, get them the final application, a keyword final application early. And because sometimes there are deliberations, sometimes there's disagreement, sometimes there's a lot more intense than that. So get this form to them as soon as possible so that we do have the signed form uploaded with the application by the Part 2 deadline, which is typically about May 12th. And it's available on our website. If you don't already have it, you see the link there. And the new expiration date, as you see there, is 2026. So key thing is that the Indian Parent Committee chairperson, who must have represent a eligible Indian child enrolled in the grantee's entity, whether it's the school or the district or the consortium. That chairperson must represent an enrolled student with a valid 8506 or eligible Indian student. Okay. And then you must have 51% parents under column A, parents, family members, guardians, under column A, 51% of the voting membership. And then your tribal representative, official delegated tribal representative, somebody cannot self-nominate themselves as a tribal rep. We need an official delegation from the tribe in writing, and which you will keep on file, and we'll ask you for it if we ever need it, for that person to serve as a tribal rep. And then we have teachers can serve as well, but they must be listed under column C. If they're also a parent, they still must be listed under column C because they're representing their employer, and there's a potential conflict of interest. Employees can certainly not serve as the chair. We rejected a few applications for that last year. And then we have students. If you have high school students that are able, secondary students that are able to serve, they are also welcome. They cannot serve as the chair either. I almost had to reject an application, a large application for that last year. We love students serving, but they cannot serve as the chairperson. I'll pause and see if there's any specific questions about the Indian Parent Committee, because this is the most intense part of our program, I think.
We don't have any questions at the time.
Okay, then let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And I'm talking fast, but if you want me to slow down, let me know, because I could quote out most of this in my sleep at this point. So new applicants. So registration's open now. I believe it's through December 10th. That's on our website, so please confirm that date. But it's roughly the first week and a half of December every year, starting in early November. And we prefer that all returning students register, or returning applicants register. I used to be a professor and a teacher, so not returning students, returning applicants register via our EASY system. And if you need support doing that, please email oie.easy@ed.gov or me, and I'll give you their email address as well. And ultimately, it's not required. It's recommended. That way we can help you work through any pre-application issues. So, but even if you've had a grant with us before, we do recommend that you register. If you don't register and you want to come back as a returning applicant, you'll still get an application, but it helps us to make sure that you're ready to go when Part 1 opens, because the The closure deadlines are hard deadlines per the statute, per the Federal Register. We've had some really hard stories of, can you please extend the deadline? And in 50 years of this program, the answer has always been no. We have never had a yes to extending deadlines. So please just make sure that you're aware of that. And then if you have somebody who does want to apply, or you know of an entity that wants to apply that never applied before, then this is the time to let us know about that. And please reach out to me, to oie.ez.gov, which is our partner support center. And we can help you get those folks. We have a lot of new applicants coming in this year, actually, and now applicants of all types. We have any community-based organizations. We have, we have new LEAs. We have new tribes coming in. So a lot of new applicants this year. And so if you want to be one of those, please, or if you know somebody who wants to be one, please let us know. Next slide, please. Okay, and then NACCE. So we do have NACCE. It's a National Advisory Council on Indian Education. I'm the designated federal official for them, so their main point of contact. And so I always highlight the work they do. Not everybody knows their important work, but you see there's a PDF right there that you can download. This was their last year's annual report to Congress. They do advise our Secretary of Education and Secretary of Interior. And they do a better job than I think anybody else I've seen in highlighting the key factors, issues, concerns, highlights, good things as well that are happening across Indian country. And next slide. You'll see that we have the formula website here. You can click on the link. We keep it updated on a regular basis. One thing I'll highlight here is that if you, are you able to click on that link actually? Can you give me 1 minute? Our cleaners decided to vacuum outside my room nonstop just for this, right at this time, unbelievably. So I'm sorry, give me 1 minute while I address that.
Sure. I can access that link. Can you guys make sure you just mine's one.
Access these links, like the PDF for the annual report or the formula website. I can't.
My apologies, they decided to leave the vacuum on right outside my room, outside my office. Okay, so here on the our Indian Education Formula Grants page, if you click on awards, you'll see that for the first time ever in 50 years, we have published granular data of applications. Yeah, so there's the student map, or the grantee map, but if you scroll down, it's the FY23, and you see that first link that's in bold and underlined. Sorry, it says FY23 formula. So that will take you to a spreadsheet that has all of our grantees, their award amounts, their Indian student counts, their program services and activities. I used to get a plethora of requests for this data, numerous FOIAs, blah, blah, blah. And I finally just decided to put it in a spreadsheet. We've redacted the PII, the personally identifiable information. But in terms of the actual, the nuts and bolts, the important data of every one of our grants are in that spreadsheet. And you can filter, you can sort, you can search for keywords. Like if you want to know who else is doing language services for their students, you can sort by that data. You can look at other GAPA statements, meaningful collaboration statements. And so we're hoping that folks will use this as a peer-to-peer training and help you all develop maybe new applications, but also just increase the overall accuracy and elevate what you're doing for our students. So. Okay, is there, well, and then we have the community of practice site. So we've had this site up. This is probably our most highly visited website. We post all the new TA materials, all the new application materials, all the webinar recordings, webinar slides, the Q&A logs, all of that goes on this. This is our heavy lifter for our website. So our contractor manages this, and it should be very current. And then the second, the right part of the slide, you can see that it's a pretty intense site, and can be a little bit challenging to navigate because there's so much content there. However, one of the easy ways to do it is to go to that top button in green, Collaborate. Once you click on Collaborate, you'll get that keyword search just underneath that. If you type in a keyword, it'll then bring you the document you're looking for, like 506 or Indian Parent Committee. And that way you don't have to search through the entire site to find what you're looking for or figure out what part it's in. You can just go to Collaborate, type in your keywords, and it will populate with the applicable documents or files. Okay. And then next slide, please. And there's our contact information. I think that's our general phone number, but also WebEl. You can also, Annabelle, I usually handle like elevated issues, concerns, problems. Annabelle is your assigned program officer. She would be your first stop for general Q&A or technical assistance. We also have our partner support, which you know about. That's the oie.ez.gov. And we're 100% happy to support you all. And I'll take any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions at this time? There are no questions. Thank you for joining us once again. Dr. Moore, thank you for sharing these links and insights. We appreciate you joining Stacy today.
Great. Can I make one last point, actually?
Sure.
Do we have time for that? Okay. And I apologize that I missed the earlier session. It's been epically busy, and things coming up right and left. So apologize for that. But I also wanted to say that I believe that you all are considering a statewide under your State Department of Education Indian Education Leader, and I would highly encourage you to do that. There is a Indian Education State Leaders Network, and I may have told you about that the last time that we were together, but that's a very active group, and they meet at least monthly. I do join the meetings, and there is a plethora of really great information shared, and I was able to see a little bit of the last presenter, but how to access data, to gather your data for your Indian Ed students, sharing curriculum resources, policy issues and concerns. They cover the gamut, and so it's called ISLN, again, Indian Educators State Leaders Network, and it's only for if those states, or only the states that have Indian education directors have been participating. So again, I highly encourage you to have someone, or at least an acting, so that you can participate in that wonderful group, and then many other groups like it. So wanted to give you that plug. And again, thank you for your time and the invitation.
Yes, so thank you for that plug in. So we just got that position approved, so we're waiting for like the job description and all that other stuff. So hiring and implementation may take quite some time, but thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. And since you said that, there are several other state leader Indian education with the state. So part of that state leaders network, that if you needed samples, examples of those program descriptions, project position descriptions, the PD, they could easily help you with those samples. They'd redact them, but that way you weren't having to recreate the wheel with a lot of these documents that an Indian educator from the state would need to have in place to get started.
Yes,
Sometimes you need a charter and bylaws, but
Yes,
go
I
ahead.
would love for you to share those job descriptions with us.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole portfolio of documents that you often need to get started, and that way you aren't. It's a lot of work to create all that from scratch. So I'll email you separately on that.
All right, thank you. I think we have one
Yes.
question on the floor.
Yes.
Helping to Dr. Moore, Camille Lanning, and my question, I don't know if you caught the end of the presentation, but I was talking about integrating some of the data that they get with the Title VI funds to the data with DPI. Is there someone in your office that helps, like, make sure that we can download those files and that information can be integrated?
So let me make sure I understand your question. You're asking if there is support for integrating that, is it the data that I just shared with you into that, on that spreadsheet within your system?
Yeah, so within DPI, we get our information for our annual reports through their reporting system, through PowerSchool, and we've always had numbers are skewed because self-identified versus we don't have access to the numbers for our Title VI students. And when we report, we always try to report fully, but also where our Title VI students stand as well. So we're just wanting to see if that data, how hard it is for other places that may have this same situation, how they, if you have somebody there that helps them integrate that information in.
So that's a very good question, and it's complex because there's multiple moving parts. So back in the day, a long time ago, I used to be a PowerSchool data administrator and super admin, like I controlled the whole system. They've upgraded it since then, but and I did meet with this PowerSchool developers from corporate several months ago, and we were just trying to get them to integrate the ED 506, our eligibility form, into their system and push it out for availability to all the districts, basically digitizing the ED 506 within the student information system at the core. They're still working on that. Now, I should highlight that the data that we have provided, we've made public. We do not collect the ED 506 forms unless there is a monitoring, unless there is typically an issue with the grants. Those stay on file with the school district or with the grantee and under lock and key. And then we only request them if there is a need. So we don't have per student data. We only collect data as a coagulation for the grant. So we have, if you look at that spreadsheet I provided via our awards website or page, we have a total Indian student count we collect. And then on the APR, which I'm also about to publish, with the PII redacted, but we also don't publish via the APR, will not, because we've never published the APR before, but I'm about to. We will publish the graduation rates per entity, but not per student. We will publish all that stuff that's recorded on the APR. So we do statewide assessments. We collect local benchmark data now. All of that will be on the APR. But the per student, I think you're looking for the individual student, like tribal memberships and stuff like that. I can tell you, and I'll stop after this, that I believe it's the state of Oklahoma. I believe the state of Oklahoma is doing something similar already to what you want to be doing, which is requiring that their statewide data repositories are all the student information systems collect tribal enrollment data per student to where they're not just self-identifying. So if that's what you're thinking or requesting or going toward, I would connect you with their State Director of Indian Education. Her name is Jackie White, and she would be happy to give you more information. They actually passed a state law about it.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, and if you have, if there's more about that, if I'm missing something, just email me. I'm happy to work through this with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anytime. Okay, thank you all very much for the invite, and please reach out going forward with anything you need.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Moore.
Of course. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Next on our agenda, we have joining us Mr. Quinn Godwin, the Director of the North Carolina American Indian Heritage Commission, to provide an informational presentation and update. Welcome, Mr. Godwin.
Thank you, Dr. Locklear. Our director, Ferry Ferguson, is regards. He's out on the board somewhere doing things. So I'm here today. Very happy to join all of you. First of all, Happy Heritage Month. We've been in full swing for about 3 weeks over at the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. I do want you to look at this screen because it just encapsulates everything that we're tied into at DNCR. And we are charged as the American Indian Heritage Commission with making sure that the native story, the American Indian story, is being told through the arts, through museums, parks, trails, library, nature, aquariums, museums, music, and of course history. And as we speak right now, the 28th annual American Indian Heritage Celebration is underway. They've had a morning full of workshops, virtual education day, so there are thousands of kids, literally thousands of kids tuning in across this great state. So we're very appreciative of that. And of course, a big event is tomorrow, which if you've been covering the news coming out of the National Congress of American Indian, it's going to be charged up. As people are coming back, we had a success down there, and I think people are going to be really driven tomorrow to really drive our culture and traditions home for people. So I'm excited about that. I think the last time we were here was about a year ago. We barely had anything set up. Didn't even have a website. Now we're fully set up. You'll see if you come by, we'll have a booth tomorrow with a tent right in front of the museum. But we'll have all the swag. We have cups, pins, shirts, lanyards, hats, all kinds of stuff. So we've been really hard at work branding over the past year. Love our logo. Our website's aihc.nc.gov, G-O-V. So that is a good representation of all the so we presented this, like I said, last month. We really started, my role in that was to really lay the legal foundation of how the public laws were formed to create Indian schools, starting in the 1880s. There we go. There we go. So you see our co-lecturers here. It was myself and Commissioner Forrest Hazel. We gave an overview of our commission. Really cleaned up this nice DOA map that's been circulating since 2020 of our tribal territories and exactly where our urban Indian organizations are. Talk about our first year accomplishments. Of course, our first real big event was last year's Heritage Celebration. So we were kind of folded into the committee that already exists. We're not meant to take over that committee. We were factored into something that's been happening for 27 years already. So when I mentioned the oral history collection, we had started that at this point last year, but at this point I think we have about 15 different interviews that we're about to debut in the coming weeks. And we're getting audio and visual. So we have our elders sit down, including Danny Bell. I'll call him an elder. You might not like that, but he was one of our interviewees. But at this point, like I said, we have about 14, and they're 2 hours, 2.5 hours apiece. And it's no edits. So we sit them down in front of the camera. Unless there's an overall theme like Indian schools, we just love to talk. And our state oral historian, John Duran, is really good with people. And we like to join him, either Curry or myself, to make sure that our elders and our community members, Indian community members, feel safe and respected and all the good things like that. So they'll be able to share more of their stories. We've interviewed Executive Director of Commission on Indian Affairs, Gregory Richardson. He told us a lot of things that I guess I would imagine most people don't know about him, about his time in Vietnam, some discrimination he faced when he was coming back, even at RDU. It's really interesting. And so we shared some of that in this presentation. And as you can see, 2 other big events that we were participating in. We had that I remember, the first ever ceremony, equinox ceremony, at Town Creek Indian Mound in recent memory. So we had all of our commissioners, tribal leaders come out, non-natives who were with the department. Rich Thompson is the director of that site at Town Creek Indian Mound. He's been a steward of that land as a non-native for decades, and we just appreciate their help. But these are the relationships we're building to where we can bring ceremony back on the mound at Town Creek Indian Mound, and maybe even have powwow there one day, you never know. Another thing we were very privileged to take part in is included in the Department of Natural Resources is the Office of State Archaeology. So they are our colleagues, our partners in the department. So we actually partnered with them to go down to Lake Waccamaw and raise a 932-year-old canoe off the lake bed there. It was still in one piece. It was incredible. So those are the types of things that we've been doing over the past year. And just briefly going through this, we set out in the beginning of this workshop to really talk about how Indian schools were different in North Carolina. They weren't necessarily a source of tragedy like boarding schools were, federal boarding schools. And since they had Indian administrators and educators, it was very much a source of community pride in a lot of these schools. So it really just started in 1859 and went through the legal foundation of how these Indian schools came to be. We're talking about East Carolina Indian School, High Plains School in Spohn territory on the North Carolina and Virginia line. The theory of the Croatan theory, which was basically the linchpin of how we all got schools back in the day, went through that. It's not necessarily historical fact, but it was a convenient label for people at the time, as some of these reports that we talk about go through. We tie it into overarching national happenings at the time. So Plessy v. Ferguson, that's separate but equal, all the way through Brown versus education. It's really interesting. And what we want to do is, the information is out there, but it's not readily available to people, and there are a lot of gaps in this information. I do know that the Office of State Archaeology was doing something to try and sign is actually a markup. The Pomeroy Foundation is another avenue aside from state historic markers to really tell our narratives here, American Indian narratives, and we have a lot more text that we can work with. The gray and black highway markers, it's almost like a tweet before they ended the limit. You can only put so much information on there. Things like 25 characters online and you only get like 6 lines. So if we get this grant from the Pomeroy Foundation, we'll mark Indian schools in every tribal territory all across the state. And we want to call it our North Carolina American Indian Heritage Commission North Carolina Indian Schools Trail. So that's efforts that we're making towards preservation. But really, Commissioner Hazel had a bunch of nice pictures that he's collected, like old pictures. He even got some on eBay of just like people, students out in the yards. Pictures of these old bookmobiles from like the 50s, these old cars, and it's just it's really incredible to see some of that stuff. I don't have his PowerPoint loaded up, but his was just about 50 slides of pictures that he's collected, newspaper clippings. It was incredible. So you'll see here, we showed our students in that class segments that were pretty much representative of each person's time at the Indian school. We started off with Executive Director Greg Richardson. He talked about Halawa School. And I'll actually, if we can get sound, I wanted to play a little bit from Danny's, if we could. Is that coming through?
I'm sort of fascinated by this particularly.
Okay, so it might not work. So we'll host this interview online in the coming weeks. Really excited about that because, again, we have 14, 15 elders that just have stories that a lot of people haven't heard. One thing we're tapping into is the Dunn sit-ins during, they were trying to force integration because the Indian kids weren't allowed to go to school there, so they actually protested, picket signs and everything, and actually sat in the classes. So we talked to Mr. Huey Maynor and Ms. Juanita Caldwell about that. But this is just how we're tying it all in together. We're going to really focus on the Indian schools this year and going forward. Built into one of our grants is we're trying to get traveling exhibits. So if a museum or a community space gives us 4 walls, we'll put up 8 panels about Indian schools in North Carolina. And it can travel around, it can stay at particular places for several weeks. I've seen this done with the African American Heritage Commission. But that's a good way to lead up to a permanent exhibit at the North Carolina Museum of History, because you have the North Carolina General Assembly providing schools for people that they knew were Indian, whether we had recognition or not. So they knew we existed as a community and we weren't willing to give up our identity. So they provided for us. And that's a story that should be told in North Carolina. So I'm probably at my time now, so just appreciate being here. I hope a lot of you can come out tomorrow. Festivities will start around 10:30. We'll bless the arena, probably read a land acknowledgement or something, but the grand entry will be at 12 noon. So I hope to see you all there.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Godwin?
I don't really have a question, just a comment. I just want to thank you from the time that you guys presented last year to now, to seeing your involvement in Western North Carolina has been really nice. So just
Yes,
to
ma'am.
see that you're active across the entire state. So,
Yes.
but I've seen you, the mention of the commission on different flyers for the museum and historical, the trail of tears and stuff like that. So we appreciate your involvement.
We'd love to visit out there. If you can get us in for a visit, we'd love to spend some time out there in Cherokee. We went last year during September for the National Trail of Tears Conference, Trail of Tears Association. That was really good. That's really good. So we're looking to get back up there. Anything you need us for.
And you guys interviewed Miss Betty Magman. That was part of this too.
Oh
right?
yeah, she's coming up.
And she
Yep.
talks. So I saw a video recently, and she talks about the American Indian Director position and offers a historical perspective
Yes.
on that as well, which would be really beneficial.
Which
for
we
the
have back
council.
now, right?
Mhm.
And from what I understand, that's huge. Yeah, she talks about all that, her time in that role, how it went away and never came back. So those we're getting them out there. We got all this just gigabytes of
I
data,
saw
and
it
it's just
somewhere.
big files that you have to move across the internet. It takes some time, but yeah, she has a great interview.
Quinn, thank you for these updates. I'm really excited to hear
Mhm.
about these oral traditions, and congratulations on your recent wedding
Thank
as
you.
well.
Congratulations to you, sir, getting
oh,
awards out here for
Thank you.
education.
Thank you. But I wanted to make either just a comment or just throw it out there. As you were talking, I'm noticing a lot of similarities with a lot of the social studies curriculum standards, and I'm wondering if there might be some partnership either with NCDPI or, I mean, maybe even a college summer intern who might be able to take your content and create lesson plans or some curriculum, some PowerPoints or something that these could be used in classrooms very easily for teachers. So just throwing
Absolutely,
that
and
idea out
the
there.
curriculum aspect is something that we haven't really started yet, but we've been charged by the department to fill in some of these historical gaps. I know that one of our commissioners, Nancy Strickland Field, says that, you know, in the 1700s and 1800s, there's a lot of gaps there, and that's why you get that distinction, and people can't really join the ancient tribes with the contemporary tribes. So that's what we feel like our charge is. And we've had meetings with Carolina K-12, so we'll continue to work towards that, and we'll have more information about that soon. Mm.
Any other questions at this time? All right, thank you, Mr. Godwin, for joining Stacy. We always appreciate you. And
All right,
appreciate
thank
all
you.
your
And
work.
everybody that shared our toolkit, thank you. We appreciate that.
All right, so at this time, we will break for lunch, and then after lunch, we do have one more presentation from Dr. Olivia Oxen, our State Board of Education. If we could, I would like to maybe have a working lunch so that we can continue to, or so that we can nail down our theme and recommendations. Would everyone be willing to do like the working lunch? Okay, all right, awesome. So at this time, we will break for lunch, and we'll just turn off everything and have a working lunch. All right, thank you. We will reconvene at 1:15.